Out of every first-party game Nintendo has released, over 75% has reused an existing franchise. Let that sink in. Mario, Zelda, Pokemon, Mario, Zelda, Pokemon. Every time I watch a new Nintendo Direct, it feels like I have deja vu. Every time I get excited at that signature one more thing that they have at the end, and it's always a game that I've already seen before. Now, I love a lot of those games, don't get me wrong, but I feel like with all the talent that Nintendo's built over the years, why does it feel like they're playing it safe? So, I did what I always do, pulled the data, game by game, year by year, and honestly, when you lay it all out, it's hard not to see the pattern. Let's get into it. Let's start with the obvious. Nintendo has always leaned on its biggest franchises. Mario, Zelda, Pokemon, Kirby, Metroid, you know the names. And look, I love the franchises, but when was the last time Nintendo gave us something new? I mean, out of every first-party game Nintendo has released in North America, only about 22% were a part of a new franchise. That means for about 4 Nintendo games you see, 3 of them are part of something you've already played before. Like, I just want them to take more risks. So I wanted to see how deep this actually goes, and that's where this chart comes in. This includes every single first-party game Nintendo ever released, from Donkey Kong Bonanza all the way back to Wild Gunman back in 1974. And yeah, it's not even close. Almost everything they've put out builds on something they've already done. Now, I do want to say the fact that they use their most successful franchises is not the problem I have with them at all. The problem is that's pretty much all they do. They milk the same handful of names for all they're worth, and we buy into it every time. And then when something does feel fresh, like a new WarioWare, a new Mario RPG, or even a Toad Treasure Tracker, you know, where the gameplay just isn't a 2D or 3D platformer, the names are still usually tied back to something that started decades ago. So yeah, it might not always be a sequel, but they're barely taking any risks in my opinion. And when people say Nintendo is creative, in some aspects I agree, but I just wonder when was the last time they had to be creative, where they develop a new world that we've never seen before. If this were just a recent thing, maybe Nintendo being cautious with the Switch or trying to stabilize after the Wii U's disaster, then that would be one thing. But this is a very long and clear trend that's been happening. Look at this chart. It maps out every first-party Nintendo game released since 1983, broken down by year, and the color marks whether each game reused an existing IP or introduced a completely new one. And yeah, anything past the 90s has been majority reused IPs, and again, it's not even close. Year after year after year, Nintendo has overwhelmingly favored building on what they already know. And what surprised me most while making this chart wasn't just how dominant the reused IPs are, but how rarely they even try to make something new. And if they do, most of them never become staples. Take 2020. Nintendo published a game called Good Job. It's got a 78 Metacritic score by critics, and the 49 user reviews has it at a 8.1. And although that's a good score, I guarantee most people have never heard of it. They also had another original called Jump Rope Challenge that released in 2020, but I don't know who's getting out of bed for that either. Actually, it's funny because I thought they had a more recent example of an original IP in 2021 called Game Builder Garage, but it turns out that even that is a spin-off of the Nintendo Labo series. Nintendo can't even help themselves. And so yeah, Good Job and Jump Rope Challenge, they're technically original, but they don't really count, right? Okay, they count. And that somewhat shows that they're trying to throw something at the wall and see what sticks. But the fact that none of them really take off is why I'm asking, has Nintendo run out of ideas? The last time they had a new IP that actually broke through was back in 2017 with 1-2 Switch and ARMS, the same year that the original Switch released. If that's not running out of ideas, then I don't know what is. Oh, and you might have noticed I highlighted 2 key points on the chart. The release of the original Donkey Kong and Super Mario Bros. Because that's the moment the Nintendo we know today really began to grow. It's kind of poetic that their legacy was built on a new idea and they've been running it into the ground ever since. So if you're wondering why Nintendo keeps leaning on the same franchises over and over again, well, let's look at the sales. This chart shows total copies sold by franchise, and when you break it down like this, it just makes sense. But it was obvious from the start, wasn't it? At the top, the big hitters, Mario and Pokemon. Then you got the Wii series at 214 million, which is hugely carried by the Wii Sports and Wii Sports Resorts, which sold a combined 126 million. And then all the other big names, Zelda, Donkey Kong, Animal Crossing, Smash, and Kirby. I mean, the games practically sell themselves. Just go watch some of the reactions to the most recent directs when people see their favorite characters pop up in a new form. Honestly, a lot of people are just as excited when they pop up in the same old form too. So if you're Nintendo, why take the risk? Every time you release a new idea, it struggles to gain traction, but every time you drop another Mario or Zelda, the money gets printed. The business case is kinda obvious. I don't like it, but I respect it. And it's the consistency. They sell well every time. Whether it's a mainline Mario game or a random spin-off like Mario Golf or Luigi's Mansion, the fans show up. Meanwhile, for a game like ARMS, even though the reviews might be decent, the sales don't even come close. And it's not like the talent isn't there. Just look at Game Freak, the studio we all know for Pokemon. Just 3 months ago, they teased a new game called Beast of Reincarnation, and my reaction was just like the rest of the internet. Where did this come from? There's no way this is the same company that made Pokemon. The style and tone of the game is a huge departure from what we've seen in their work with Nintendo, which just proves the point that these studios have the creativity and talent, they just rarely get to show it. So Nintendo has been using this strategy for decades, and honestly, who can blame them? The fans are still showing up and the games are still selling out. But what happens if that stops working? You are already starting to see subtle signs. People aren't necessarily complaining about the reused franchises, but they are talking about how money hungry Nintendo is starting to feel. The fact that they are already announcing paid DLC for Pokemon Z to A, a game that isn't even released yet, is crazy. And the fact that there is a $90 Virtual Boy accessory for the Switch 2 is even crazier. They also just released paid DLC for Donkey Kong Bonanza, which just released in July. And people online are comparing the cost and worth of that to the indie darling Silksong, which costs exactly the same. And that's the real risk here. Not that Nintendo fails financially, but that the magic starts to fade and the mask starts to slip. Especially when you look at PlayStation. Sony has shown they're willing to take risks on original ideas. Naughty Dog made their name with Crash Bandicoot, and then moved on to Jack, and then moved on to Uncharted, and then moved on to Last of Us, and now they're on Intergalactic. Housemarque built a brand on arcade shooters, and then made Returnal. Even Sucker Punch went from Sly Cooper to Ghost of Tsushima. They trust their studios, and because of that, their catalog keeps evolving. But with Nintendo, it often feels like they're stuck in a loop. Because when everything becomes another sequel, or spin-off, or re-release, or another rendition of the same game, it starts to feel like you've played it all before, even if it's technically brand new. And don't get me wrong, I love Mario and Pokemon as much as the next guy. I'm honestly pretty excited for Pokemon Z to A. But when the original IPs we've seen in almost a decade are 1-2 Switch, ARMS, and Jump Rope Challenge, it starts to feel like Nintendo isn't even trying anymore. And that's the part that hurts. Nintendo was most of our childhood, which is why I believe they're so successful today. They were able to capture the magic and bring it with us as we grew up. But now that I realize that every new release is one of the same, I just don't see the appeal anymore. Especially if new indie studios are bringing new stories that are just as good. So has Nintendo run out of ideas? Maybe not completely, but based on the data, they definitely aren't taking as many chances as they used to. I'm curious how you feel about this. Are you fine with the Mario and Zelda reruns? Or do you wish for more surprises? Let me know in the comments down below. Do you want to see another video like this based off of Xbox or PlayStation? Also let me know in the comment down below. If you want to look deeper into the data, there's a link to the dashboard in the description below. If you enjoyed this video, please leave it a like and subscribe for more. I appreciate you for watching, and I'll see you later.